Hey friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm setting up my bullet journal for September 2020 with a woodsy theme. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Herbaland. Herbaland is a Canadian company that makes delicious vegan gummies. I'll talk to you about them more at the end of the video, but for now, let's jump right into the setup. I'm starting by painting the two cover page images, one of a deer and one of a large capital letter S. I decided to use some watercolor paper for this section because this was my first foray into masking fluid, and I was a bit nervous about trying to use it in my notebook. While this is the first time I've ever actually used my masking fluid, I have owned this bottle of masking fluid for a while, so it has thickened up over time, and it definitely could have used a little bit of thinning by adding a bit of water to make it flow a little easier to get smoother outlines. But I'm using a cheap brush that I don't mind ruining and my masking fluid to follow along the line that I drew in pencil to create a nice outline for my shapes. I'm using gouache for these paintings, and I'm starting with a base color of a nice mid-tone foresty green. This is Oxide of Chromium Winsor & Newton Designers Gouache, and I'm mixing it with a little bit of raw umber to make the color a little more muddy, a little more olivey toned. I personally prefer warm toned greens over cool toned greens. I'm trying to create my own perfect deep olive shade. I'm also going to add in a little bit of the Winsor & Newton Designers Gouache in Sepia, which is a nice deep, slightly cooler toned brown, just to deepen up the color a little bit more. And I'm going to keep adding and mixing until I get the perfect shade, and I want to make sure I have enough paint that I can create the entire background in one go. I'm also pouring out some of their zinc white, which is just a nice pure white gouache. Once the masking fluid is fully dry, I waited about 20 minutes to make sure. I'm going in with a nice flat brush and my green, and starting from the bottom of my deer and painting up to about the halfway point, then grabbing a fresh, clean flat brush and the white gouache, starting from the top of the antlers and painting down to the midpoint. I'm then going to start painting down past the midpoint, picking up some green as I go, and then sweeping back up again, sweeping back down, just going over and over that midpoint, trying to blend the white into the green. This process of blending two shades of gouache together has to be done all at once while the paint is still wet. So you want to work quickly, but you don't want to use an overly wet brush. I used a barely damp brush because you want the color to stay nice and opaque. Once I'm happy with that gradient, I'm going to do the same thing to the S. So again, starting from the bottom with the green, coming up to the midway point, starting from the top with the white and coming down to the midway point, and then blending over that center section up and down, adding a little bit more paint here and there as I feel I need, trying to get a nice smooth gradient. I felt the tip of the antlers were a bit dark, so I decided to go back in with a little bit more white on a very dry brush and blend that down into the rest of the color. This background had already started to dry, so it wasn't ideal. I really should have done this while everything was still nice and damp, but luckily it wasn't fully dry and I still had some time to play with. Once I was happy with my gradients, I let the gouache fully dry. You really want each layer to be 100% dry before moving in with the next layer. Now I'm going in with a finer brush to paint in my trees. And I'm starting in with this darker green color, which is this custom green that I mixed with a tiny bit of lamp black, which is actually a watercolor, not a gouache, so it's a little less opaque, to get the same undertone of green, just a little bit darker. I'm trying to get slightly different shades for the various trees by picking up more of the black or more of my custom green to get slightly darker and slightly lighter greens. I'm painting a couple trees using just my custom green, but with the same brush that has the tiniest bit of that darker green left on it, to get trees that sort of fade into the background, almost like they're being seen in the distance through a mist. And I'm trying to get some variety as far as the sizes of the trees and the shapes, but to create each tree, I'm using basically the same technique, which is starting from the top at the tip and then dragging down, kind of flicking out side to side as I go down, trying to keep each section a little little wobbly, a little irregular, so it looks like the branches of a tree. I'm also blending some of that same darker color down and away from the trees to create a little bit more depth and dimension at the bottom of the painting. Now I'm going to leave those trees to dry, and I'm moving over to the S, doing the exact same thing, creating a bunch of trees using my fine detailed brushes and a variety of greens ranging from almost black to basically the exact same color as the background. Once I finished the trees, I went in with a little bit of that lamp black and added some tiny little birds in the distance. Then I left my paintings to dry overnight. When I came back in the morning, I removed my masking fluid and had my finished paintings. As you can see, there are some areas where I went past the masking fluid, so I probably could have added even more to protect the page. But since my plan is to scan these into my computer, clean them up a bit, and print them out, I have a chance to fix up those little mistakes here and there. Now I'm grabbing my B5 size Gentle Giant notebook from Notebook Therapy, and I'm flipping to where I want my cover page to be and grabbing my printed versions of my paintings. Now all I need to do is cut these out and glue them in. And to finish off my cover page, I'm going to use my stamp set to stamp out September along the bottom. Now that my cover pages are finished, I'm going to flip over to the next spread, which is going to be my calendar and my quote page. Starting with the calendar, I wanted to have a bunch of trees along the bottom of the spread, so I'm using the same technique for painting my trees and using a bunch of different shades and sizes across the bottom. So again, I have that darker green, which is my custom green mixed with lamp black. I have some of my custom green on its own. I also have a lighter green that I mixed with my custom green and zinc white. And I'm blending from the bottom of each tree right to the bottom of the page, and then trying to blend those bottom sections together just to give the bottom of the spread a little bit more weight or substance. Again, the blending is way easier if you do it while it's still wet, so I'm trying to work relatively quickly. Once those trees are finished, I'm going to let them dry, and I'm going to use some washi tape to create a border for my quote page. For the background of the quote page, I'm using the exact same technique, so using my green from the bottom to the midway point and my white from the top to the midway point, and then blending them together, going over and over until I get a nice gradient. I'm spending less time on the gradient, using a little less paint and even less water to try to prevent too much buckling of the page. This Notebook Therapy paper holds up really well to watercolor, but it can still only take so much before it starts to buckle, so I wanted to use a bit of a lighter hand. But I actually really like the effect that it got. It's a little streakier, but it makes it feel really hazy, which is perfect for what I'm going for. Once I gave the background a nice long time to dry, probably about an hour, I'm going in and adding, you guessed it, a bunch of trees. Again, using a variety of shades and sizes and shapes. I gave those trees some time to dry, and then I decided to pop in and finish up my calendar. So I'm using my Sakura Micron pens to create the horizontal lines for the calendar, and then I'm using my stamp set to add the days of the week along the top, the September header, and also the days of the month. As always, all of the supplies I'm using in this video will be linked in the description box down below, so be sure to check that out if you're looking for anything in particular. Once I had all the numbers in, I felt like I was missing something, so I decided to use my Tombow brush pen in this nice green shade to add the horizontal lines. I felt like black lines would be a little bit too much, and I actually really like having this green incorporated. I decided to also add a little underline to the header. Now that the background is nice and dry, I added a few birds, and I'm using my gold watercolor from Finetech, as well as a tiny bit of zinc white to create streams of light coming down through the sky. I wanted it to look like there was a bright sun, but it was sort of filtering through all the fog, through the clouds, just some beautiful, subtle sunbeams. And then along the bottom, using my stamp set and my gold stamp pad, I am stamping out our quote, which is "Keep looking where the light pours in," which felt kind of perfect for this time in the world, as well as for this painting specifically. So I used my gold ink, and then once that was dry, I went over that with my gold watercolor to get a really nice, bright, reflective look. Once that was dry, I removed the washi tape and flipped over to the final spread of this setup, which is my weekly setup. So I'm starting with my custom green along the top, and creating my sections for the days of the week on the left page and my task list on the right page. If you're not familiar with the rolling weekly, I will link the video where I go into detail into the system. This is the only weekly that I use in my bullet journal, and it is, in my opinion, the best weekly you could use. So check that out if you're looking for a new weekly layout to try out. I'm then using my gold ink and my stamp pad to add the header as well. So this is week 36, and I'm writing tasks on the right side. I'm also going over the ink with my watercolor, again for that super shiny, reflective, metallic look. Then the last step to tie this in with the rest of the setup is just to add some trees along the bottom right edge. So that's it for the whole setup. Before I show you the final flip through, I want to talk to you about today's video's sponsor, Herbaland. Herbaland is a Canadian company with a commitment to providing products that have a positive impact on both people and the planet. Herbaland's core values are community, inclusivity, and sustainability. Their gummies are always vegan, sugar-free, soy-free, palm oil derivative-free, nut-free, halal, and kosher. As a mostly responsible adult who doesn't eat candy 11 months out of the year, taking my daily vitamins in the form of gummies feels like a little treat, and has kept me far more consistent in taking them than I ever have been before. While I love many of Herbaland's gummies, today I'm going to be focusing on their beauty line. While we are all beautiful just the way we are, as we begin to emerge into the outside world once again, it's nice to take steps to look our best. First up in Herbaland's beauty line are the adorably heart-shaped Pure Beauty gummies in the scrumptious goji berry flavor. Enhance your beauty from the inside out with biotin, folic acid, zinc, vitamin B12, and more. With 2 gummies 2 times a day, you can improve nail strength, maintain naturally glowing skin, and support healthy hair growth, which is very important if your goal is Rapunzel-length hair like me. Next up, we have the Acai Berry Twist Gummies to support overall health. Rich in anthocyanins to maintain healthy vision, these delicious acai berry flavored gummies boost antioxidant levels to fight free radicals and support a strong immune system. They are also rich in dietary fiber to promote healthy digestion. And last but not least, we have the vegan collagen booster gummies in my favorite flavor, watermelon. Packed with amla fruit, L-lysine, vitamin A, and vitamin C to boost your body's collagen production, the vegan collagen booster gummies support and strengthen your joints and muscles, boost your skin's radiance, and help you to grow healthy hair and nails. I love taking care of my insides with Herbaland so my outsides can glow and radiate my natural beauty, no matter what comes my way. Use my code plantbasedbride20 for 20% off your order from Herbaland. Thank you to Herbaland for sponsoring this video and for allowing me to do the adult thing and take my vitamins without it feeling like a chore. And with that, it's time to show you the final flip through. So here is my entire setup for September 2020. I love this sort of murky, foggy forest vibe. I don't know what it is about it. It just feels so perfect for the start of fall. It feels very Canadian because these evergreen forests are covering large swaths of my home country, and it just feels right somehow. So I'm really happy about this. Thank you to my patrons for voting for this theme. Speaking of patrons, I want to take a moment to thank our newest patrons who have joined the squad. So a big warm welcome to Liana, Kat Kuraneko, Colby, Claudia, Jordan, Charlene, Matika, Jamie, Hannah, Asuka, Amanda, Joyce, Ree, Jenny, Liz, Martin, Carla, Stephanie, and Lena. Welcome all of you to the squad. We are so excited to have you. It's so nice to see so many new names popping up. If you at home want to join the squad, feel free. There's a link in the card and in the description box down below. My patrons get printables each month from my monthly bullet journal themes, so if you're a fan of this theme, check out my Patreon. Don't forget to watch my new bullet journal setup video if you missed it. That way you can see which spreads I included in this brand new BuJo. And with that, I'm going to get going. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye, friends.